Is the sea?
Yes. You know, the Constitution itself, let me start with the distinguished senator, is supreme, and its provisions shall have binding force on all authorities and persons in the Federal Republic. Yet the same Constitution says sovereignty belongs to the people. That is what democracy is hinged on. How do you describe democracy today within the context of our political atmosphere today, Nigeria as a country, in its response to the hopes and aspirations of the people?
Well, thank you for having me once again. I must say that the NTA is doing a very great job, and I want to pray that you keep it up. Nigerians are very proud of you. The international community is also very proud of you. So I will say thank you for informing all.
Thank you.
The democracy today in Nigeria has proven to be the bedrock of human development. When we compare the days that we had no democracy, we start wondering how were we surviving.
Yes. Yes.
And then you will see that democracy has indeed become I would say the bedrock of development. It's something that is now becoming part and parcel of us. The entirety of the Nigerians, whether you look at the military class, of the civil society, everybody has embraced democracy, and everybody is seeing democracy as a hope. I happen to be one person that if you ask about democracy, I will smile, because I had the privilege of serving as a governor for 8 years. I also served as a commissioner for about almost 5 years in various capacities. And so the impact that God used me to make on the lives of my people and on the lives of Nigerians and in my state, the impact, I would say, remain indelible. Yes. And that in essence means that yes, indeed, democracy remains the best form of government for Nigeria. Today we are talking about 2019, and the whole country is agog, getting very excited. Why are they excited? They're excited because people cannot wait to cast their vote for the incumbent president, President Muhammadu Buhari. And then a lot of us are jumping ship, more or less, moving from the PDP to join in the APC because we have seen the focus. It's extremely difficult for a country that had the kind of what I may call plethora of problems that we had prior to 2015 to get out of those problems. Yes. But slowly by slowly, we are getting out of those problems today. And this is as a result of what? Good governance, because of focused leadership, because of steady hands. And of course, you can see that almost all Nigerians are jumping and running to join the president, and everybody is looking forward to his re-election. And some people may not agree. There are some who may have doubts. But I can tell you that it's only in democracy that Nigeria has come to be respected. The change of government in 2015, when the then president picked up his telephone and called the current president and said, "Congratulations, my brother. You have won. Let us get together to plan the transition," is something that is un-African. And I can tell you that it's something that a lot of world leaders see respect Nigeria. So I would say that under democracy, that Nigeria has come to be counted amongst the Committee of Nations in the world, and Nigeria has come to be much more respected. Yes. The achievements cannot be limited to one regime, because it's like a building block. This regime comes and builds on the other. But on the whole, more than 17 years of democracy in Nigeria, we have a lot of good stories to tell. A lot of good stories to tell. And I do tell you that Nigerians are enjoying democracy.
Yeah. Minister Okugo, let me cast back to the presidential inaugural address. He says there is now a national consensus that the chosen right to national development is democracy. To achieve our objectives, we must consciously work the democratic system. We've been working the democratic system. This is a question to you.
Before the coming of President Buhari, we were more or less like a pariah nation, in a situation whereby even if Nigeria attends international functions, so many of the time we are almost forgotten in order of protocols. There was a time we were almost forgotten at the UN summit, for that matter. And here we are now. Nigeria is being seen as the #1 country in terms of good governance for this decade. That is the prize given to President Buhari a fortnight ago. Earlier on, Nigeria was given the prize of its president picked as the best president in terms of fight against corruption in Africa. And he was even appeased, he was even begged by his fellow West African countries to agree to take up the leadership of the economic community of West African states. And apart from that, even from the time President Buhari was elected, the whole paradigm changed in such a way that countries were scrambling, sending their invitations for this noble man to visit their country. He spent almost 1.5 years traversing different parts of the world, mending fences, making arrangements towards multilateral, bilateral, and trilateral relations with other forces of the world, so that Nigeria will take its correct and rightful seat in the Committee of Nations. And apart from that, he faced squarely the fundamental challenges that were bedeviling the nation before his comment. If you remember that time, it was even, the nation had to even be borrowing money to even pay staff salaries. So much so that so many of the state governors had outstanding salaries of 2 to 3 years unpaid. This man came through his economic revolution. He succeeded in getting money to even be giving them what is called bailout funds and special grants for them to take care of the emerging challenges they inherited. Apart from that, remember in the area of security, because without security you cannot get anything correct. At the time he took over the mantle of leadership in this country, we were in a very sorry state, especially the northeastern part of the country, where most of the traditional rulers had abdicated out of the country. Some had abdicated within the country, but out of the territory of northeastern Nigeria. Yeah. Apart from that, that time was the period when all over the northeast there was nowhere you can move freely with your eyes open. It was a period whereby so many roads had been blocked for a period of 3, 4, 5 years. Market activities closed down, religious activities banned, political activities zero, social activities, educational activities. There was virtually nothing going on. Even telecommunication services got disrupted. Yeah. So much so that about 29 local government areas, the insurgents had foisted their flags. Our armed forces were running away whenever there was even confrontation of challenge. But now all that one is the way we have succeeded in restoring law and order. We have succeeded in restoring educational, commercial, social, religious, and other activities in the area.
What you said had triggered me on what the distinguished Senator earlier said at the takeoff of this discussion. He said he was attracted by development strides.
Yes.
Of the ruling party.
Exactly.
That is why it's not just coming in a kind of change of tune, so to speak.
Yes.
Especially take a look at the fight of corruption.
Yes.
I remember at an interview, you once mentioned it in this forum, that late Nelson Mandela said, any person who changes his conviction and his ideas, depending on whom he's dealing with, is not fit to lead a nation.
Yes.
And so many political commentators are saying that Buhari is one person that never changed his own conviction.
Exactly.
His own doggedness in the fight of corruption.
Yes.
In 1984, you remember
exactly.
Andrew, who wanted to check out of this country.
Exactly.
But Nigeria is our country, we must remain here and salvage it together. And the same Buhari came back and said, if we don't kill corruption
will kill us all.
Was that your attractions? That makes you defected, in spite of the fact you left an indelible, as you said, mark in Akwa Ibom State.
Thank you.
Which other governors are building on.
Thank you. You know, I must say that sometimes when we talk about the period of being through, as they may say so of the PDP, I will have something like a pinch in my heart. I will say, oh my God, I hope my period in my state will not be included. Because that was the period my people witnessed on common transformation in all spheres of their lives, from the educational sector, where they had free and compulsory education.
I like your political vocabulary.
Honestly, from the free and compulsory education, which was open to all Nigerians, to the mental psyche of the Akwa Ibom child that was changed. And so it wasn't as if it was a generic thing. You know, here and there you saw, you know, flickers of light, you know. But on the whole, I would say that democracy has done a lot for Nigeria. And what do you think would have attracted me to the APC at a time like this to join President Buhari? Was it the national interest? You know, whenever a country is in crisis, it behoves on all to join their hands together to assist the leadership to ensure that we get out of the crisis. Nigeria fell under recession shortly after this administration came into power. And so what that meant was that every right-thinking person who has a child and who wants to bequeath a better future to his or her generation must do everything to support the government to get out of recession so that we don't go into depression. And then if we went into depression, even the rich would not be able to walk on the streets. And so it wasn't a time for people to conspire and see how they could bring down the government. And so when I defected, like I said, I didn't call it defection. I said it was a movement of like minds in order to ensure the stability of the government and in order to ensure that we put our hands together and then build the government up and support the government to stabilize Nigeria. Because the country needed to survive first before we can begin to talk of 2019 election. And so there were too many things that attracted me to the current administration. If you look at it very well, there was a time that even Abuja was becoming a very scary place to live in. Bomb blasts here and there and all that. Those things have now become things of the past. You don't hear those things again. And like you said, flags were hoisted all over parts of the northeast, from Yobe all the way to Borno State. You know, territories were being acquired by militants. Those things are gone. And we must also pay credit to former president, late President Yaradua. May so rest in peace. Because at the time he came in, the issue of militancy in the South was at its, you know, most terrible stage. And what did he do? He brought out policies that brought those young people from the creeks, and they surrendered their arms, and he brought peace to the Niger Delta. And so we are evolving. Every country has challenges. And so when this president came, he did not shy away from the set goals that he had. He said he will fight corruption to a standstill. And of course, he also said that he will make sure that he secured the country.
Yes.
And so today, working with the armed forces, the gallant men in uniform and our women in uniform, we have been able to see very serious improvement. Many may not accept it, but I can tell you, the fact that we now have guerrilla attacks here and there, you know, cowardly attacks because they have been decimated. I can tell you that. And that is the thing that we need to do. We need to support the government to continue in its fight to ensure the security of lives and properties, not just of the Northeast people, but also of the entire country. Militancy is totally abated. And of course, the resurgence of IPOB had also been taken care of. So Nigeria can be said to be one today. Then on the issue of corruption, he has been honored by the African Union as the ambassador of anti-corruption in Africa. And I've always said, even as a leader, even though some people look at all political gladiators as corrupt, but the reality is that I used to preach to my local government chairman when I had the privilege of being a commissioner of local government, that when God gives you an opportunity to preach, do not steal the pulpit. Because if you steal the pulpit, you have stopped the preaching of the gospel. So, but it does not mean that somebody who works in the pulpit cannot eat from the pulpit, but don't steal the pulpit. So if 95% of resources that get into a state are utilized for the benefit of the people, Nigeria will change collectively all across. So that is where I support the fight against corruption. And I've also said, by way of advice, now I'm part of the APC administration, so I'll continue to make my input, that the corruption on its own has a twin brother, and that twin brother is poverty. And so there is no way you can fight corruption without fighting poverty, and then you hope to achieve results. So we must fight poverty alongside, because poverty leads to corruption, and corruption deepens poverty. So they are twins. And that what the president has done is that with the social intervention programs, you look at the Empower, you look at the trader money program, you look at even the feeding program, and all the other micro credit facilities made available all over, you see that this is one people-oriented administration, a government for the people and by the people, which is democracy. So he has actually practiced it. This is not in theory. He has been able to touch the lives of the ordinary Nigerians on the street with the numerous programs he has. It's just that this government is not being boastful and most of his programs are not actually being publicized. But the reality is that this is the first administration since 1960 that has actually thought of the ordinary Nigerian and brought out social intervention programs that are meant to alleviate and enhance the living standard of Nigerians. So he's doing the right thing. He's fighting corruption and he's also fighting poverty. And those twins, and you could see the linkage. And that means that where he is supported by all and sundry, it means that Nigeria will get to the El Dorado. So that was one of the things that attracted me. Yeah. And don't also forget that the fact that it's very difficult for you to say government has achieved so much in 2.5 years, particularly at the federal level, when it takes a lot to do the planning, it takes a lot to get to a point of awarding contracts and all that, you know. And so we need to see what the state governments are also doing to assist the federal government. I get a little bit angry when I hear about security votes, because if security votes are given to state governors, why do you not assist the federal government? You cannot in every situation have, come down to blame the federal government. The state governments must be up and doing, because you have also sworn to uphold the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And by virtue of Section 14, Subsection 2B, the primary focus of government is to ensure the security of lives and properties of its citizens. And so when you become a state governor and then you have the paraphernalia of office, you must do everything. The federal government should not only come in terms of when you have a problem, like major floods or major security disasters that the state cannot handle. But primarily, every state governor should hit his chest and say, yes, I've done my best to provide the implements for the security services to work, to assist the police to do their work, to assist the civil defense, to assist this, to even assist the SSS to bring the intelligence necessary to keep the state safe, not blame the federal government all the time. So there are so many things that are happening. And for myself, my people in Akwa Ibom, throughout the regime of PDP, about 16 years, we cannot look at 1 kilometer of road that was ever done for us by the People's Democratic Party. So they must have done a lot in other parts of the country. I'm talking about my state.
Yes.
So every politics is local. So to see Godswill Akpabio in APC supporting President Buhari, you'll be wondering why. My people now know the result. They know the reason. The first and foremost is that it was for national interest. The second aspect of it is that this is the first regime that has commenced the dualization of the road from Ikot all the way to Calabar. To Odukwane, that construction has started.
Yes.
We never saw that at all in 16 years of... and then look at the number of appointments given to my people. And the president has also pledged to put in the 2019 budget, the dualization from Ikot to Aba. Aba used to be the commercial hub of the south, south, and southeast. But for 40 years, we were cut off. There's no road between Akwa Ibom State and Aba for 40 years. So for a regime that says we are going to undertake this, and they've already shown good faith by not just putting it in the budget, by commencing the dualization of the other one. They are even extending the railway line in my state. The current president has pledged to extend railway line to Akwa Ibom State. So ours is slightly different from other parts of the country. We are very determined to give more than 95% of our votes to the current president in 2019 because of the promises and because of the gains that we have seen so far that others have enjoyed, which we are about to enjoy with the fact that we are now in the fold. So state by state, the politics is local. That is why you see that in less than 3 months, Akwa Ibom has become an APC state. Even though right now they see the PDP governor sitting, but by 2019 order will change. So you see, in terms of the democratic dividends, I would say that we have never had it this
Senator,
good.
I think we'll have a second part of this discussion.
You must.
We'll have it.
You must.
because you have a lot to say. Well, you see, the common decimal in all the distinguished senators has been saying national interest.
Yes.
Lately, we had, do we say, the shenanigans and the peccadillos. I remember Taliban Bauchi used to use those words of the political elites. It's not only the political elites that use shenanigans and peccadillos, because you know the conversion points, the basic institutions of democracy, executive, legislature, and the judiciary. And the 3 tiers of government, we are operating federal structure, just as he said. He wants to see the governance, so that the state governments and the local governments, to be part of the bandwagon effect. How do you see this composition? Nigeria, a democratic system with 3 tiers of government and basic institutions of democracy, executive, legislature, and the and the judiciary. How do they come together for this issue of national interest?
The motto of the Federal Republic of Nigeria says unity and faith, peace and progress. Section 15 subsection 1 of the Constitution. You must believe in the unity of purpose. You must believe in the unity of purpose. You must have faithful belief in it. And that is when you will have peace in the way you will operate the governance of the country for progress and prosperity to come and be institutionalized in the country. When you are talking about fight against corruption, for example, Section 15 subsection 5 says that the state shall constitutionally is a mandatory provision. Mandatorily shall fight corruption in all its ramifications and abuse of power. Abuse of power is the way you govern your state wrongly. Abuse of power is the way you go and put personal interest over and above the national interest. For example, sections 15 subsection 3 and 4, 14 subsection 3 and 4 talks about national interest, national cohesion, national discipline, national interest. And the Constitution has even come with another provision that will even assist those to govern so that they will govern easily and in a very beautiful democratic way. For example, section 23 and section 24 of the Constitution talks about national ethics. Respect to constituted authorities, discipline, labor, dignity of labor, respect to elders, that it is a responsibility on you as a citizen to consider yourself as a component part of the governance. And the symbiotic relationship of the leader and the led, the social contract there. And section 24 talks about responsibilities, the civic obligation on the citizens. You must give somebody who is, for example, our anchorman, distinguished senator, His Excellency Godswill Akpabio. You must give him that distinctive regard of honor as your leader, as a former governor, a distinguished senator, somebody who is a bearer of a national honor and a bearer of a title in the traditional institution. He has succeeded in bringing out these bailout funds, Paris Club, and giving them to all the state governors for them to go and settle their domestic. But it's most disappointing that up to now you hear some states that they are not able to settle outstanding salaries of 1-2 years or some quantum of months. And these kind of things are the things that are the strings that are retarding the quantum and the tempo of the development as envisaged by the quality of governance exemplified by President Muhammadu Buhari. Because governance is supposed to be a collective phenomenon. President Buhari's zeal, his transparency posture, his own nationalistic and patriotic disposition should be seen in every minister, in every governor, in every distinguished senator, in every member of House of Representatives, in every human being. Exactly.
But let me just make a point. You know what he said.
Yes.
If you look at Nigeria today, you notice that what he said, almost everything he said, all the things he said are correct, because you see the freedom of abuse, the freedom to insult. I don't know if you understand. Somebody can
from freedom of expression,
from freedom of expression to freedom of insult. Somebody can wake up and address the national television and then abuse the president with 3-4 paragraphs and even call him all sorts of names.
Especially social media.
And the president is not angry. The social media in Nigeria is totally open. I was in China. Nobody would allow the kind of things that are happening today in the social media. I couldn't access WhatsApp. There is none in the whole of China.
Yes.
And so the kind of democracy we are practicing is, I pray that we sustain it, because it's almost like something that has happened for over 300 years in America. We brought it to Nigeria in 3 years. So everybody's free to insult. Everybody's free to, it's garbage in, garbage out, and all that. And so nobody wants to see the good things that are happening in the administration and all that. So it's amazing that this is the best time for somebody to be a state governor, because this is when you can get your Paris Club money. We had money left there. I did a lot of programs on the basis of Paris Club. I never had 1 naira. I left behind 145 billion on federal infrastructure that are intervening on roads and all that. I never received. But this president is paying those things to states and all that.
Well, you've had it all. Democracy in focus. The Buhari administration's strategy towards development. Well, that has been the discussion, a vibrant one for that matter. I am Aliyu Bababaro. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, distinguished senator.
Thank you for having me.